You've done the breath work. You've journaled. You've tried feeling your feelings. And still nothing. Just numb, flat. Like you're watching life happen from somewhere behind a pane of glass. If that's where you are, it makes sense. You're not broken and you're not doing it wrong. In this video, I want to offer something that might help you make sense of that numbness. A deeper understanding of why it's there and how your body might actually be trying to protect you in ways you haven't fully seen yet. Toward the end, I'll guide you through a practice that supports reconnection, gently and in a way your system can actually receive. So maybe you're going through the day just fine. You show up, you answer the emails, you go through the motions. But inside, it's like something's missing, like your reactions are happening at a distance. Are the things that used to move you don't quite land anymore. You might catch yourself thinking, I should be feeling something right now. And instead, it's blank. Not bad, not good, just flat. And that can be confusing, especially if you've been doing the work, and especially if it wasn't always the case. So here's what I want you to know. That numbness isn't a sign something's wrong with you. It's not weakness, it's not resistance, and it's definitely not failure. It's something your nervous system learned to do on purpose. When too much happens too fast or for too long, the system doesn't just give up, it protects. It turns the volume down, not just on pain or stress, but on everything. On joy, on clarity, on connection. And here's the hard part, because that survival strategy, it helped you keep going. It made it possible to show up when feeling wasn't safe. But over time, it can get stuck. The volume stays down. And even after life moves on and things around you have changed. So let's talk about what's actually happening when numbness takes over. We often think of the nervous system in terms of fight or flight, when we're anxious, panicked, or overwhelmed. But there's another survival state that's quieter, and that's freeze or shutdown response. It's not a mindset. It's not something you choose. It's a biological response that says, this is too much. I can't run, I can't fight, so I'm going to power down. Your system doesn't shut off completely. It goes into a kind of protective dimming to conserve energy, to avoid feeling what might be too much. And if you've been in that state for a while, or if your system learned early on that shutting down was safer than expressing, feeling, or asking for what you needed, then numbness might actually feel familiar, even normal. And just to be clear, this kind of adaptation doesn't only come from big traumatic events. Sometimes it starts early, in subtle ways. A parent who was working long hours and couldn't attend. A caregiver who responded with food when you needed comfort. These aren't signs of bad parenting. They're moments when your system didn't get what it needed for safety, and so it molded around absence. But here's the thing. Even if your external world looks calm now, your nervous system may not have caught up. It might still be running an old pattern, one that once kept you emotionally safe by pulling you into numbness, and now just leaves you feeling far away from your own life. This doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means your body is doing what it was wired to do, which is to protect you. And while that pattern used to be about surviving things like physical pain, threat, or danger, Today, the threat might look very different. It might be emotional pain, shame, rejection, loss, or even the risk of finally feeling something you've had to push away for a long time. Your system doesn't always distinguish between physical threat and emotional overwhelm. It's scanning for danger all the time, and it's wired to respond before you even have time to think. I'm remembering a client that I've worked with for a while, someone who said, I can show up, I can talk, I can laugh at the right time, but I don't feel any of it. She knew how to look okay, how to hold a conversation, respond to a cue, even make people laugh. But it was all surface. Inside, there was this quiet flatness, a sense of going through the motion, of acting her life, like sitting at the table with everyone else, but behind that thick pane of glass. She was doing her best to act connected. She wanted to feel it, but her body wasn't giving her access. And that's what numbness can look like. Not collapsed or checked out, but functioning on the outside while feeling flat or unreachable on the inside. And when we explored that gently, what we found wasn't a block. It was a system that had adapted, not with collapse, but with performance, with the outward behaviors of connection, but without the felt sense behind it. And slowly, over time, we began working, not to feel more, but to notice what was already here. Warmth in her hands, the sensation of the breath, the memory of someone who'd made her feel seen. And for the first time in a long time, something began to land. It wasn't all at once, but enough to feel just a little more real. So if you've been watching and thinking, that's me, I go through the motions, but I don't feel much, I want to say again, you're not doing anything wrong. This kind of numbness is the body's way of protecting you. And today, we're not going to try to push through it or force anything to change. We're going to work with it differently by gently introducing something that feels safe and noticing what happens when we place that alongside the stuckness. Before we go into the practice, I want to give you a sense of how this actually helps. They've done brain imaging studies where people were asked to hold two different types of experience in awareness at the same time. Something that felt difficult, like fear or numbness, and something that felt good, like a memory of being cared for. What they found was that this contrast, holding both experiences together, created a mismatch in the brain. And that mismatch is what leads to neuroplasticity, changing how old patterns are held over time. Even if there's no clear memory, just a body feeling, a vague sense of shutdown, your system still responds. It begins to reorganize. You can think of it like this. And say my hand here represents the old pattern, the way your body has learned to hold numbness. And when we introduce something that feels good, we don't just think about it, but we actually bring our attention to how it shows up in the body. And when we hold that alongside the numbness, it's like pushing this pen through the middle of that pattern. It doesn't belong. And it literally changes the shape of the memory. That's why the system has to reorganize. It has to make space for something new. That remodeling usually happens over the next 24 to 72 hours, which is why what we're about to do. It might feel small in the moment, but it actually matters. These gentle exercises are how the system learns something new. Understanding, logic, and experience, two very different things. And in order to move out of numbness, it's important to actually experience this for yourself. Otherwise, we remain stuck in our experience, regardless of how much we know. With that in mind, I'm going to invite you to settle into a comfortable position, sitting or lying down, whatever feels most supportive in your system today. And if it feels okay, you can allow your eyes to close or simply soften your gaze. Take a slow, steady breath. No need to deepen or change it. Simply allow it to arrive and leave at its own pace. Now bring to mind a moment when you felt cared for. It doesn't have to be big or dramatic. Maybe someone looked at you with kindness. Maybe you were with a pet or in a place that made you feel deeply at ease. If nothing specific comes to mind, that's okay. You can imagine what it might feel like to be seen or supported. Allow the sense of that moment to take shape, whatever comes. Like you're replaying a scene from a movie, only this one lives in your body. Notice where you are, who's with you, what you're doing. Begin to fill in the details at your own pace. What's around you? Are there sounds? Someone's voice? Birdsong in the distance? The hum of the room? Can you feel anything in the air? Maybe sunlight on your skin or a soft breeze. Simply notice what begins to shift in your body as you stay with this moment. What's your body's experience of feeling cared for? Is there warmth, a sense of being seen, maybe a breath that feels just a little easier, or the tension in your shoulders lightens? There aren't any right answers. We're simply allowing the experience to land and experiencing what is. Where does care and connection live in your body? And when you feel ready, I'm going to gently shift your attention back to that feeling of numbness, of moving through life without actually feeling. Where do you notice this numbness in the body? What lets you know you're feeling numb? And how is this different from feeling cared for? There's no need to change anything. Simply notice what's here without pushing for change. When it feels right, bring your attention back to the area you noticed when you were experiencing connection. Feel what's there now, even if it's subtle. After a few moments, gently return to the numbness and stay with that for a breath or two before coming back to the connected feeling again. It's back and forth in your own rhythm. There's no rush or no pressure to feel more. You're simply allowing your system to experience contrast. If it feels helpful, you can quietly name it in your mind. This is here, and this is here too. We'll stay with this for another moment or two, simply noticing what's present. If you made it all the way through that practice, thank you for staying with it. This kind of work might seem subtle, but it's doing something your nervous system can't get from understanding alone. What we practiced wasn't about fixing or overriding numbness. It was about introducing contrast, giving your system another option. You might not feel anything dramatic right away, and that's normal. But these small, repeated experiences of felt difference, especially when they're gentle, begin to rewire how the brain and body holds old patterns. So if you're used to learning by thinking, I want to invite you to stay curious about what happens when you learn by experiencing. If something in today's practice landed for you or brought up a question, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you want more guided practices like this, I guide live somatic sessions every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern on Insight Timer. You can find the link below.